Hello and welcome back to episode 95 of Afterglow. On this episode, we're going to be talking about Mega Man X2 for the Super Nintendo. Of course, Mega Man is definitely one of my favorite franchises, and this is yet another game from that series that I just absolutely love. I'm not saying it's perfect. I do have a few issues with this game, but it's still just a fantastic choice of a Mega Man title if you're going to play one. And again, the pros vastly outweigh the cons. Like, the only real con for me is that some of the music is repetitive. The music is good, but the tracks are just way too short. But again, solid gameplay. I really enjoyed the story in this one. But I'm going to be going into my personal thoughts of Mega Man X2 after we come back from our music. Welcome back. So, for this game, I actually had gotten it through borrowing it. And I was already a big fan of Mega Man X1. So, a buddy had X2, and he had moved on to the PlayStation, and had to play X2. Had it for quite a while. I think I borrowed the thing for like 3 or 4 months. Managed to beat it in that time, but I really enjoyed it. I still preferred X1 back then, and even till this day, I prefer Mega Man X1 over Mega Man X2. But I feel like this is a really fun game that added what needed added. Like I said in the intro, though, the music tracks, they are so good, but they're also so short, and they loop so much. If each music track had maybe 15 to 30 seconds more in it, I think that problem would have been fixed. As it is, there's some really good banger tracks in here. They're just too short. They almost need a little bit more to them. But the game is really cool. You start out invading this factory that's making new Mavericks. And at the end of it, you fight this huge giant-looking one. Really cool way to start the game. And then after your intro stage, it takes you to your stage select where you've got your 8 Mavericks. I always started with Wheel Gator, which apparently is not the optimum way to start the game. Of course, with it being Mega Man, there's a way to go through the bosses, which is like the preferred or the optimum way. But I'm used to starting with Wheel Gator, so that's where I start. But, managed to fight my way through him. Wheel Gator, he can be kind of annoying because it's a very defensive fight whenever you get to him. He's not able to be hit for a good chunk of the fight. He's in this red watery stuff. A lot of people think it looks like blood. I said it looked like really dirty water, maybe oil. But he'll pop his head out every once in a while to attack. Sometimes he will open his mouth and eat your attack and then spit it back at you, which is kind of a cool touch. But he's always my starting point. Then I will go to the Morph Moth stage. Have trouble pronouncing that one. But I'll usually be able to take him out with a buster as well. Anyway, like every Mega Man X game, there are capsules that you can find to get power-ups. The power-ups are a little different in this game. think the head power-up in this one is actually a scanner that scans the screen looking for other hidden items. The dash in this one gives you an air dash because you start out with the dash in this game, and in every other Mega Man X game following. It's kind of weird how he loses all of his other power-ups, but somehow this one time, he's like, I'm gonna keep them dash boots. But it only happened with the dash. Everything else he always gives up. Never understood that. At least until, I think, X5. If you started with X, you would start with the 4th armor. Which, thank God. Yeah, it would make more sense for him to keep his armor. Just in case there's another Maverick Uprising. I mean, there's, only been like 8 Maverick Uprisings that we've seen in these games so far. You'd think he'd want to keep those upgrades instead of just, throwing them in the closet never to be seen again. But I digress. Anyway, another cool feature that I really like is that this game gives you optional bosses. Zero's body parts have been taken after Zero was destroyed in the first game. And you have to go get his parts back from these Maverick robots, and this does determine how the game ends. But you can go fight them as mid-bosses, and they can be pretty tricky, especially because whenever you're fighting them, you're not really fully powered up yourself, and they can hit for some big damage. Thankfully, they are pattern-based like the regular bosses, and if you do fight them enough, you will learn their pattern eventually, and be able to pretty well beat them with just your Buster, although it can be tricky to learn their pattern. But, of course, like any Mega Man game, once you beat your 8 bosses, you go to the tower stages. In this case, it looks like an island in the Antarctic, I think? But there's some killer tunes in this one as well. And, of course, you get to the end of it, where if you got all Zero's parts, you will find a fake Zero who the real Zero will come in and take out. But if you did not find all Zero's parts, you get to fight Zero. You do not want to fight Zero. He is a monster in this game. Very tricky attack patterns, screen-filling attack patterns even. And you gotta fight him right before Sigma. So you don't want to drain all of your energy tanks fighting Zero only to go into the Sigma fight with, half an energy bar. One cool thing about this game I do want to bring up is that Capcom had thrown in a special chip in the cartridge that allowed them to do some kind of cool looking wireframe effects. You see that in the opening of the game with the X symbol rotating around in the wireframe. There's a few sub-bosses that will use this wireframe thing. There's a sword that you will fight. It's a big wireframe sword and you have to attack the hilt of it. And the Sigma fight, also, towards the end, he will turn this giant wireframe head that will come at you, and he will change color the more you attack and fight him, which is kind of a cool touch. But after you do beat the game, it does have a somber ending, just like Mega Man X1 did. Kind of a downer of an ending, and even the music almost reflects that to a degree. It's like, how long do I gotta keep fighting? It tends to almost be a trope in these Mega Man X games. But overall, it's a really fun game. I was, kind of bummed when I had to return it, but I had to think for months. I'm like, yeah, I need to get this back to you. Ended up finding a copy of it in a small gaming store, and it was pricey. I think even back when I got it, it was like a $60, $70 game. I paid more or less what you have paid for it brand new back in the day. And it's worth even more these days, which is crazy. But glad I got a copy of it again. Really had a lot of fun with it. Let's see how much it's going for now. We already started talking about it, so let's eBay Mega Man X2 prices. While I'm Googling it, though, I did emulate it, but honestly, it took a while to emulate, because I got into emulation in the early days. So, it took a while for, I think it was ZSNES I was using at the time, to get support for the chip that was used in this game for those wireframe effects. So for a while, it wasn't supported. So, after I did borrow it, I did play it through emulation a few times, but then Like I said, it took a while before this game to even be supported. I want to say like maybe 1999, maybe even 2000. However, I did seek it out and got the Mega Man X collection for GameCube back in the day, which is how I replayed all of these Mega Man X games. At least X1 through X6, if I remember right. I really, really enjoyed playing them on that collection. And of course, you know, for the modern day era, I did get the Mega Man X Legacy collection to be able to replay all these games, including X2. So with all that being said, the results of our eBay hunt. This game is going for between 100 and... well, I was going to say 160, but as I scroll down the listing, I do see some cheaper ones. These are bids only. Looks like the average price is like 140, 160. So yeah, this game shot up in value, and this is only X2. X3 is even more expensive. But X3, honestly, I didn't get to play as a kid. I only got to play it through that Mega Man X Legacy collection on the GameCube. So I didn't play that game until like early 2000s. So this was more or less the end of my Mega Man X games for a long time, you know, until the PlayStation came out. Did have a lot of fun with it. Yeah, I have those small things, like you got to ride in a speeder bike, which was kind of cool. The hunt for all the heart tanks and the armor expansions was fun. The music. The music is really good, but the tracks are just really, really short. I wish they had added more to the music tracks. But overall, would I recommend this game? Heck yeah, I would. It's Mega Man. And it's an early X game. Only really the late X games are the ones I struggled to get into, but like X1 through X6, I really adore all of them. So that being said, we're going to enjoy a little bit more music of Mega Man X2 before we start rolling our outro. As always, thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to another episode of Afterglow. If you're interested in more podcast goodness, be sure to check out the show notes page. You will find a link tree with links to a bunch of other podcasts, friends of the show. All of them are definitely worth listening to, maybe even more so than my own show. Speaking of that, recently I was on Main Quest podcast. We talked about Vector Man. That episode should be releasing, I want to say, within the next 30 days or so keep an eye on that. Of course, there are many other friends of the show listed down there. Special shout-outs, as always, go out first of all to Toby from Secret Levels, who did our show logo. As long as you're checking them out, also check out the Lost and Gone podcast with Grim. He's the one who does our intro and outro music. Speaking of Grim, the Grim Glow podcast, first episode should be coming out, hopefully here within a few weeks. We're going to be talking about the history of the Tamagotchi and the legacy of it. So that will definitely be a fun conversation. I hope you guys will enjoy as well. Other than that, that'll be it for this episode. Don't forget, if you want to get your input in for episode 100, I am taking submissions. If you want to talk about a video game and your memories of it, if you want to record it, send it to me either on Discord or shoot me an email, whatever you want to do. You can be in that episode 100. This is going to be just a big listener special. So hopefully I hear from you. I would love to get some more people jumping in on that. I don't know how long the episode's going to be. Might be a shorter one, might be a longer one, never know. But I'm looking forward to hearing all of your guys' memories. Until then, thanks again for listening. Check out the friends of the show, and they're going to tell you about all of their stuff right now.
Afterglow listeners, it's me, Keith Gasper, coming at you from the #1 retro gaming podcast, the Main Quest podcast. Come hang out as a guest and I play and discuss a game from the backlog of my childhood. We're talking about our history and the history of the game, and if it's worth checking out today. We're talking about games from the NES, the Sega Genesis, TurboGrafx, Game Boy, and much more. And that's just on the main feed. If you enjoy what you're hearing on Afterglow, you're going to enjoy the Main Quest, and I'm happy to have you. Find the Main Quest on Apple Podcasts, Good Pods, Spotify, and wherever great podcasts are downloaded.
For more than 15 years, Retro Gaming Roundup has been the centre of your retro gaming universe, with top 10s, interviews, game reviews, news, and much more from all over the globe. Be sure to tune in every month for a new dose of Retro Gaming Roundup. That's RetroGamingRoundup.com.
Hello, my name is Aaron. I'm one half of SuperPod Saga, a topical variety video game podcast fueled entirely by nostalgia and unleaded gasoline. SuperPod Saga, we discuss a different video game topic each and every week. We have new episodes every single Monday covering a different video game topic. More than anything, we want to entertain our listeners and make you feel like you're one of the boys, like you're hanging out at a campfire with some of your best zany, caffeine-powered buddies and just talking about your favorite games and all that stuff. Stop on down to SuperPod Saga. It's on every podcatcher there is. If it's not, let me know and we'll get on it. But again, SuperPod Saga, stop on by.
Hey, this is Toby, one half of the Secret Levels podcast. We're a podcast that goes over old retro games. We go over the history, the story, the gameplay, some fun facts. We even rage a little bit. And then we go and give it a nice 1 to 10 rating to let you know if it's still worth playing. We have over 200 reviews for games on the NES, the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, and many other consoles. You can find us on all the major podcasting apps, such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and you can follow us on social media at Secret Levels Pod. Game over, folks.
For more than 15 years, Retro Gaming Roundup has been the center of your retro gaming universe with top 10s, interviews, game reviews, news, and much more from all over the globe. Be sure to tune in every month for a new dose of Retro Gaming Roundup. That's RetroGamingRoundup.com.